What's up, guys? This your boy Josh, and thanks for tuning in to the podcast Just a Kid from Gary. See, today I'm in St. Louis. St. Louis, my second favorite city besides Gary, Indiana, and I'm visiting my good friend Chris. See, Chris and I figured out that we are cut from the same cloth. We're both just kids from Gary. And see, Chris later on moved to Indy, you know what I'm saying? He basically grew up in a single family home similar to me. But, you know, when I go to St. Louis, you know, I love visiting the free tourist attractions like the Gateway Arch or the museums and zoos that they have here. And you can't forget about the delicious food. So we're going to go first see how Chris is living. Let's check it out. So how's it going, man?
I'm doing well. Early mornings here in St. Louis.
Man.
So, yeah.
But it's a beautiful morning.
It is.
Yeah. I remember when I was here, like, I pretty much had good mornings here. Like, every morning was always, like, nice and sunny or a little bit of cloud, but, yeah, pretty much it. Man, but thanks for having me in your crib, man. This is a beautiful pad.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. How did you find this place?
So moved to St. Louis in 2017. We're used to like the traditional apartment style, so was doing some apartment hunting and ran into some lofts. So I was like, man, I want to live in a loft. Exposed bricks, exposed ductwork, and all of that type of stuff. So I met with a realtor. She showed me some apartments around the city. Also went on like Zillow and all the other search sites to, do a lot of research to see what I liked. Stumbled upon this. Was in the price range, so I continue down the path with a realtor, and we are here today.
Dang, man. I think that the most important part when you're finding a place is finding something that you like.
Yes.
You mentioned like you wanted that brick, you wanted that ductwork. So like I think this is a really like dope place, man.
Yep, and it's quiet, and it's safe. St. Louis might get a bad rep. I'm in a safe area, secure parking. I want to come back home. Want to come back home for some comfort. So you might want to pay a little extra.
Gotcha.
For peace of mind.
Okay. And how long do you see yourself like staying in St. Louis?
I can see myself staying in St. Louis for a long time. Been here 2 years. Definitely wouldn't mind staying longer if needed. Just really depends on where work takes me. And I'm open. I don't have any kids, so I'm open to move pretty much anywhere.
Take your time with that. Trust my advice on that. And like so, do you like moving back? Like what I'm saying, because we talk about Gary and all this other stuff, but do you just say like maybe one day I'll go back to like Indiana?
For a good cause. They have a great cause for me to move back to Indianapolis. I don't see myself moving back to Gary, but I can see myself moving to Indianapolis in the future. The cost of living is low. They got great schools and community, so I can definitely see myself going back. It's gonna have to take the right dollar and the right woman to get me back. I think I got the right one to get me back, but that's in discussion.
It's all the timing. All the good timing. You gotta. It's man. Life is always about like figuring out like what's the next step. Like you can always be like, all right, this is what I'll do A to Z. So like basically like from me, I'm in like Central Indiana, and like I get the question all the time. So when you coming back home, and I'm like. In good time, good timing. Like everything happens for a reason. You know what I'm saying? You got to take your time. You got to plan a little bit. So I think that like it's always like best to do that, man. But bro, like I remember us talking like back when I was in St. Louis, and we used to talk about like what I'm saying, like just being from Gary and like just kind of like similar backgrounds. You know what I'm saying? You had people that grew up in like Gary, and then they later moved to Indy. And we like both share kind of similar backgrounds because we come from a single family home. So how was it growing up in a single family home?
Growing up in a single family home, I didn't really understand the importance of it or how it could hinder me in the future. So the way my mom raised me was just to be genuine to people. I didn't really see her struggling as a child. We did struggle, but I didn't see it as a child because she did a good job at hiding that from me, to make sure that my needs were met and that I was living a comfortable life to help me succeed in school and sports at the time. So you have lonely nights, lonely days as a single, raising a single parent home, and I was the only child, so
wow,
lonely
that's a double
days.
win.
Yep. So always trying to, find things to do, find people to hang out with, friends. So I think my mom did a good job in placing me in different, environments with new friends and, family members.
Right.
I got a big family, so that kind of helped, lessen that burden on my mom,
Right.
having to do everything on her own.
See, I agree, and I look back at a lot of the things that like we had to do as kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like being in a single family home for me was like my mom, she's at work.
Yep.
Like imagine being at home in the summer. It was like the worst.
Yeah.
Bro, like literally like I can remember trying to like go outside, play ball, but like low key, like we didn't have much money and like much food. So like we had to go to summer programs to like get bread, like get food.
Yeah.
And they'll serve us food and we'll like play, but it was always just trying to figure out what to do during the summer. And cause she was just like working. So bro, like when you talk about being bored,
Yeah. Summers was always long because you didn't have a car, no money,
nothing.
So you just have to, find a way, and that's when you become creative. You fight with your siblings if you had siblings, or in me it was my cousins. So
okay. How many like cousins did you have like growing around?
So my age, I had one, and his name is Akil.
Okay.
So we spent a lot of time together, and then I had, after a while, I started having, my cousins started having kids, and they started coming around, and was babysitting them for us. Not a lot, but they would come around, and I would mess with them, fight with them, and play and stuff. So I had other alternates, cousins, sisters, and stuff like that. So cousin brothers, I would consider them growing up.
Yeah. I cousins always like are the best, like in some way, because they're like not related to you directly, like your sister or brother, but they are.
Yeah.
So it's always like good. And when I was growing up, we had like my cousins, like they had moved from Louisiana and they came back to like Gary, and they was staying with my grandmother for a while. And so the vibes were good as long as they were around. But then like when they weren't, then we just had my brother and sisters to just like pick on and stuff like that. So, but like man, like I think about growing up as a kid, and we talk about like where we at right now. And so if you look at the challenges that you faced as a kid, what switched your mentality? Like what was the thing that for you was like, I'm not gonna count myself out. I'm gonna like try to do something, try to be something.
Okay. Let's see. So I grew up in sports, so like men or people in general were just competitive in that way. So the people I was hanging out with had a desire to go to college, had a desire to do more than just play sports or.
And what did you play?
Football, and I ran track.
Oh, word.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Me being surrounded by them is like, okay, if they can do it, let me try to do this as well. I don't know how to get there, but I have a support system to a certain extent, that can like push me along and say, okay, if they doing it, let's try to get you there. Right. Going as well. So. I hope that answered that question.
Man. Like I think like a lot of times sports, like we don't realize like as black men or just men in general how big of a like or how important it is or what that plays in our life. Because we gain brotherhood from it. Some gain discipline. And so like growing up playing sports, like for me, I started just playing recreational sports. Like I was always on the court, bro. Like every single day of my life, dog. Like I was on the court. So a lot of times I would get in trouble for trying to play basketball on the court. Because my mom, she wasn't at home, right? We talk about those long summer days. She's not at home. She's like working her butt off, and she's trying to figure out where her kids are. And for me, I'm like, man, I need to play basketball. I need to be active. It was nothing, and you really didn't have much to do. So literally, like, I would just play ball, and literally from sun up to sundown.
Building a lot of character.
Building a lot of character, man. And it did, man. And like I would, because when I first started, like anybody that first started, they're trash, right?
Definitely.
I get pushed around, I wasn't great. And then like just like the guys that I played with, they was always like pushing you. like you suck. Like it was hard on you. Like, bro, like you garbage, dog. Like, you suck, dog. And I had to just like get to the point where I was like, I'm gonna get better. And so one summer, it took me one complete summer, but I just like started like focusing on how to like play and stuff like that. And it just like changed like, you know, some of the dynamic for me. So I mean, it's, like sports always been like a huge thing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we can see a lot of the similarities playing sports to life and, you know, everyday living discipline. Got to be on time to things. Teamwork. Sometimes whatever sport you play, it might be an individual thing that you got to get done by yourself. So it's a lot of correlation between the two.
Yeah. So you, after sports, what was next?
Okay, after sports, so I played sports all the way up until college, very shortly, and then I got injured, tore my shoulder up.
Dang, bro.
So it was like, you know, I got to come to, you know, reality, like, okay, what's next? I know I'm bigger than sports. I know I have a bigger purpose.
Wow. You know, real quick, that's a huge statement to say. Because I don't think a lot of people understand like what that means. When you what do you mean when you say you're bigger than sports, by the way?
When I say I'm bigger than sports, like I don't want to be defined as
an athlete.
So just, you know, at the time I was a student athlete, but you know, I want to be more like, I want to be Chris. He was an athlete and he did this and that at school. So I knew that kind of take my mind off of, you know, being an athlete in sports, and it kind of helped me with my like people skills and just being able to, you know, network and, you know, just start building myself up in a different light outside of sports. So and a lot of athletes struggle with the transition from being an athlete to, you know, just becoming a regular member of society.
As it's so called. So we talked about like you like transitioning from like sports and then deciding that you're gonna go to college. Why did you choose TSU?
So some cousins went to TSU in the past. We went down to visit. I seen the environment. I was like, oh man, I gotta get here. I gotta get down to this. You know, the homecoming.
Be honest, it was the women.
The women it was a lot of women, a lot of options to choose from. It was out of Indiana. I wanted to, you know, explore something outside of Indiana, so I wouldn't have to be super close to home, but still driving distance. And it was somewhat affordable, I would say that, for my mom, you know, to kind of help assist along the way a little bit. So after I see my cousins go down there, I was like, man, I got to be a part of this. So I ended up transferring from Marian University down to TSU, dropping a scholarship just to be a part of that experience. So I would say that was probably the biggest risk I had took at that time. And it paid off big time.
See, I know TSU is a HBCU. So I went to a PWI, right? And like my experience was like weird, right? Because, for example, like there's no culture there, right? Like I'm talking like hammocks, kites, you know, tents, bikes and dogs and all this other stuff that like doesn't like really like say like as a black person I'm going to enjoy my experience. Tell me about your HBCU experience.
So you talked about kites and dogs and all of that. In some HBCUs you can't even step on the grass, you know. So definitely didn't see a lot of kites and people like laid out on the lawn and stuff like that. Man, I had a great experience. It was always positive to see, like, you know, my peers doing positive things in the community, making, you know, huge impacts politically and on campus and off campus, whatever they were involved in. So it kind of like gave me some, you know, extra motivation. Like, you know, there are African Americans out here wanting to be doctors, lawyers, you know, businessmen. So I was able to see that, and it kind of, you know, helped me boost my self-esteem up to know that I am worthy and I do have a place in society where I can, you know, make an impact. So
man, like, bro, we get beat down so much. Like it's so like incredible to hear that because when you start finding out there's others that are doing like great things, and that's why like the podcast was created because Like, you know, I'm from Gary, you're from Gary, you know, you got family in Gary, I got family in Gary. And if you know anything about that city, we literally don't see a lot of positive light. Like we don't see doctors, we don't see lawyers.
Yep.
If we do, we hear about them in a very negative or derogatory frame. And for the most part, like I start believing in like myself too, because like I agree, man. When I start understanding there's like other Black amazing people out there that are doing things, then I'm like, oh, okay, this is attainable. But I think that like this has to be like a highlight. Like people have to see this stuff,
yeah, definitely,
in order to like believe in themselves. You know, a lot of times I think that our vision within like just this world that we live in is so skewed because we don't have nobody that looks like us on a like huge or mass platform.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? When we have like a huge or a big group of people that are like, you know what I'm saying, like changing the world, being architects, being engineers, you know what I'm saying, working at engineering companies and working at like companies that like you work with. Like for example, like what made you choose like the Boeing Company?
Okay.
Like, that's huge, by the way.
Yeah, it is. And I didn't understand it at the time. Boeing and plenty of other companies come to TSU to recruit specific for, you know, whatever major that you're in. So at the time, Boeing was coming to recruit for supply chain.
Okay.
I was a supply chain major at Tennessee State, so didn't know anything about Boeing. Went into the interview with very little knowledge, but they just didn't ask anything about the company. Just wanted to learn more about myself. So went through the interview, got the job. So Boeing, for those who don't know out there, it's an aerospace company across the world. So we make, you know, commercial airplanes, we make fighter jets, weapons, satellites, spaceships, anything you can think of that flies or is underwater. We probably have our hands touching on them. Yep.
Wait, so you're telling me like the airplanes that like we see every single day. You're working for the astronauts that fly in spaceships. You're working for this company.
Yep, and the military. You know, a lot of
U.S. military equipment. You work for.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
All right, man. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Right? So like, if you working for, you know, you're working at the Boeing Company. You know, tell me, what was your first day like?
So I started off as an intern. So the first day coming in, I never worked in a corporate office. My only two jobs growing up was at McDonald's, and I valeted all throughout college. But a lot of the experience that I was able to talk about to get the job was from my involvement on campus. So when I first walked in the office, there was a lot of students from, you know, these big universities, great background, resume is pretty sharp, and you know, here I come. Very nervous. Very nervous. No, I was always sharp, you know, buttoned up, slacks, you know, gotta come clean.
Gotcha.
So walked in the office, I'm like, man, you know, I don't know what the heck I'm about to do. I don't know what job I signed up for. Still, you know, at that time, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. So I'm a procurement agent. It's a buyer, so anybody who needs something from the company, they request it, and I will go out and buy it for them.
Wow.
So
like, you're the middleman.
Definitely the middleman. So I work with engineers and IT focals, and also businesses outside of Boeing to help, you know, obtain their goods that, you know, that these people need to, you know, create the products that we're selling.
And are you both, for most of your parts, is it outsourced, or Boeing has like these other like companies that they're, because like honestly think about it, you're flying the plane, like I have to make sure that I'm getting product from credible
quality products.
Right.
We do outsource, and we also make things in-house.
Okay.
What I'm working on now, I'm a software buyer. So whenever these engineers say, hey, I need this piece of software, I will work with that software vendor to, you know, negotiate and get the terms and conditions together to make sure that the company is protected and we're, you know, building the best product, you know, for our customers.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, that just blew my, because I'm gonna be honest with you. You don't think about that job.
Yeah, you definitely don't. And I didn't know what I was getting into, like I was saying earlier. Never heard of the job before.
Okay.
But college and just my experiences growing up helped me prepared for a lot of the things I deal with on a daily.
Gotcha. So what do you see yourself transitioning? I mean, do you see yourself staying at Boeing? And for example, I know you just graduated with your master's in IT. So like, do you see yourself like graduated to another position, or do you see yourself like, taking off and just like I'm gonna do this?
So what's next, essentially? So I got my master's at Webster University in IT management,
and that's here in Missouri.
Yeah, that's here in St. Louis. So Boeing paid for that education, so that was the extra perk of the company. So I took advantage of that. So what's next? So I was a supply chain major in undergrad. I always had a passion or was very interested in IT. So that's why I went back to get my master's in that. So what's next? I'm trying to transition into a IT role at the Boeing Company. I got some things in works. Can't talk on now, but hopefully in the near future, I should make that transition. So it is a career change. So right now I'm in supply chain, and then I'm going to a complete opposite.
And what's IT? Like, define that, like, for people that might not know what IT is.
IT is very broad. So IT can encompass, coding, project management. What else? Building software. Selling software, just anything, even with our phones, people are building apps on that's considered IT. So we do have people building apps at the company for whatever product that they're using. So
now here's the crazy thing, man. You talk about building apps, right? And like when I first got to college, I thought about building an app, and like I'm gonna be honest with you, I got a little afraid. I was working with a great group of guys, by the way. So crazy thing is, the first app that we had thought about, right? This is gonna blow your mind, by the way. So in college, man, I meet two other guys. One, he was initially my business partner, and the other guy, like, he was just this random guy that we just connected, right? And so we just started talking about business and all that stuff. We was just like always in that space. And I had, right before college, see, I feel like I was always meant to be an entrepreneur. So like, it was always just something about it. Like I was always into it. And so I meet these guys and we're sitting down, we're talking. It's like, all right, what's the next idea? Like how can we, and what we start asking ourselves is, how can we help our community? And at the time we was at Ball State. So it's like, how can we help that community? And so, I don't know if at TSU, I'm pretty sure you had mentioned that they do, but we have something like a career fest or some type of career day where companies come into our school, and I mean all across the globe, by the way, and they basically are like scouting. They're trying to figure out
find the talent.
That's it. And so we were saying, well, what we could do is we could and this is before, by the way, the system existed. We was like, all right, what we could do is we could create a database, an app that allows students to create a profile similar to LinkedIn. But what it is it was within the network of BSU. So if you went to Purdue, it would be Purdue's network. If it was TSU, it would be TSU's network. Whatever that network you were in, we would create it for that network, right? So you'd be like connected to all the possible jobs within your industry, outside your industry, and basically it will have all these like informations and ways to contact, all this stuff. So he's like, all right, this is it. So we're sitting down and we're typing out our business plan, and we're going at it. I mean, we're freshmen in college, so we're already thinking, right? So we're freshmen in college and we're thinking about this and we're like going crazy. And then I stopped and think, and I was like, I'm like, fellas, we can't think we're the only person that thought about this idea, because quite frankly, this is not something that just popped out of thin air. So we started thinking. I was like, man, let's go do some research. So I get online and I look it up, and sure enough, Ball State had already just created.
Oh wow,
that software.
Dang, okay.
It wasn't in an app at that time, but it was just online, and what it was a way to connect all of like the students with
the
potential companies. And we was like, man, could we still push? Like, maybe we could push for the idea of an app, because it'll be easier for students to because we're millennials, we love things quick and stuff like that. But it just blew our heads. So when it comes down to app, man, and understanding IT, or just getting into software, what do you feel like the challenges are? Like as far as like developing an app, let's talk a little bit about that, and even like creating software.
Ooh, okay. So, yeah, that might not be a question for me, but because I'm not a developer, I don't know how to code, I don't know how to do any of that. So mine is the master's I got is kind of in the middle. So it's like hovering business and IT. So I didn't get too deep into coding and development and all of that stuff. So I don't think I'll be able to answer that.
Gotcha.
In a good way.
But I think that it's still interesting to like understand like how softwares work, right? You know what I'm saying? I think like for like a lot of our viewers, like if you ever like thinking about IT work, it's something that is really, really like complicated.
Yeah, it is.
It is, but but at the same time, like there's YouTube and stuff like that. So for example, even when I was thinking about creating a software, I went online and I started looking at all these like ways to create it, and it was all these like codes, and mad coding. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna take a class, and I took a class on coding, and man, by the time
was it Python?
Python.
It's one of the languages.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. HTML.
HTML.
Yeah. So it was HTML. I didn't do well in that class, and the reason why is because I decided to take it online. Because I'm like, if I'm going to be doing something like online, I want to do it online. Online to get basically like help me understand it. But bro, like honestly, I failed.
Yeah, it take a lot of hours to learn that language. It's a new language.
It's a new language.
Yep. Yeah. So a lot of those jobs, coding jobs, will get taken over by robots or bots in the future. So
that's a crazy thing.
A lot of people are still coding, but it's slowly becoming a thing that technology can handle it on its own. So they needing people like myself and others to kind of still bring that human factor in to manage these IT implementations within companies.
See, that's actually good to know.
Yeah.
That like robots are actually taking over our jobs.
Yeah, they are.
But here's the thing: like, there's like who's managing the robots. So now we got to start learning how to manage robots now.
And people. So you still need that people aspect in there.
Wow.
So that's how I'm coming into it. Got the business knowledge now. I'm trying to learn the IT side of the house. To get things going.
For sure. And you talked about like, you're looking at growing in the, at Boeing as far as IT. Do you ever see yourself getting into some other things within the company?
Yes, I'm heavily involved in, they got an organization called Boeing Black Employee Association. So we host internal professional development events for the internal Boeing community. It's welcome to anybody. You don't have to be African American to participate in whatever events we might, host. I'm also a member of the National Society of Black Engineers. Not an engineer, but I do have a passion for STEM. So that's science, technology, engineering, and math. So we do a lot of internal events too for Boeing employees, interns, grade students from elementary all the way up to recent college grads. So we host different STEM activities here in St. Louis. So at our booth, let's say we were at a STEM event, so we might have a flight simulator, wiki board, we might have the AR headphones, not headphones, but like eyeglasses, and other like STEM related activities for students to, put their hands on to see like, this is science, this is math, they kind of get, an idea of what that is. And it correlates to a lot of companies, Boeing and other, tech companies out there. So just trying to get, kids exposed to, those career fields at a young age.
And do they do that with just in the St. Louis community, or are they like spread it?
So that's nationwide. So there's a NASB chapter, I'm pretty sure in every state across the United States. So if people are listening, you just go to NASB.com and type in your city that you're at, and there's one a chapter near you.
Really? So so like, for example, like we could even like find out if there's a chapter near Gary.
Yes, I'm sure there's a chapter. I don't know there's different regions. I don't know what region that is, but there is a chapter in Chicago, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So Chicago is pretty obtainable for people in Gary. So
I mean, maybe we could, I don't know, like maybe in the near future, what we could do is we could figure out how to like get in contact with the chapter in Chicago and see if we could do something in Gary, because we have like convention centers and spaces like that. I would be interested to see if we could get like, because like it'd be interesting. I know kids want to know.
Sorry about that.
All good, man. But I know that kids want to like learn more about, you know, IT and maybe like, because like, bro, I'm gonna be honest with you. As a kid, that's all we used to see besides like what was on the ground level was airplanes.
Yeah.
And I would always think, man, how could I like, you know, get up there and like, you know, so yeah, we're gonna have to try to figure that out.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good idea. So I'm big on exposure. Was exposed as a kid to some positive things, and that just had my mindset like, oh, I know there's more out there. So I think NSBE or any other like STEM related organization would definitely be beneficial to, you know, the city and getting kids involved, because it starts with the kids. It
does, man. That's the change.
Yep, it is.
That's the change.
But we don't want to leave the older folks out. You know, they still have, you know, opportunities for development as well. So seeing their kids do these type of events and get involved might, you know, motivate them to, you know, want to do better for themselves. And
so you even said adults could actually learn about STEM and actually like, you know, get involved with these things too?
Yeah, they can. Whether they're supporting their kids or take like courses, whether, you know, at the community college to learn coding or learn whatever, you know, their interest might be. There's a lot of free apps and websites that, you know, people can go to, you know, learn a lot of this stuff. IT related, sort, you know, per se, or even engineering. There's a lot of articles out there that you can read.
Gotcha.
So yeah, those tools are available.
Man, that's incredible. I didn't know that. Like that's, and I think that's really good. Especially if, like I said, in the near future, we're gonna try to figure out how to like organize that. And the reason why I mention that up, because my boy Jamel Johnson, by the way, shout out to him. He wants to start looking at ways that we can incorporate STEM programs back in our city. Gary. And so, you know, he was like, you know, maybe it's this, maybe it's B, maybe it's C, maybe it's D, but maybe it's Boeing.
It might be Boeing, or we can do it outside of, you know, Boeing. But I wouldn't be opposed to that.
For sure.
There is a Boeing in Gary, which I found out, and I never knew that.
Really?
Yep. It's a small facility, so the executive planes are housed somewhere in Gary. I don't know exactly where. I'm sure it's an airport somewhere.
Near the airport.
It got
That's
to be.
what I was thinking.
Yep.
Near the airport.
So we got some employees out there. Yep.
Okay.
Never knew that.
All right. Hey, so like talking about like, you know, like STEM programs within Gary and how we can like enrich our community. What are some ways like you feel like you could change, you know what I'm saying, our community, or what is the way in your opinion?
Like the community of Gary, or just in general?
Our city, man.
It's gonna need. I think it's gonna need to be like a drastic change. Whether that's some structures going up, new buildings, or new activities for people to, you know, start getting involved in, and people going back that are doing successful. Either like, you know, motivate the community, or like you're doing, you know, going to the, you know, the governor's office and you know, promoting, you know, your initiatives with the city, guys like you to go back to, you know, to do that and reach on your network to, you know, come up and, you know, help in any shape or fashion. So I'm willing to, you know, do whatever I can, you know, to support, you know, along the way.
For sure.
Because, you know, we can do all this talking, but we do need some folks on ground to, you know, to make some things going. To get going. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that that's the most important thing. I think that we can all go and like pursue our careers, but I think that as we get educated, and this is the reason why for this podcast, I think like as we get educated, you know, as we become more involved, I think that it's important for us, those ones that understand, to like start giving back. And it could be done in a small way, it could be done in a large way, but I think it starts with just education. I think it starts with, you know, like programs that we can, you know, bring, and even our own initiatives. You know what I'm saying? We can go talk to those government systems, those government systems to like say, hey, you know, this is something that I think that we should think about. You know, I think that it's important for, you know, our city to start thinking about these certain things. So for example, like I believe in the education system needs a lot of changes. So I feel like one big thing that, you know, I'm initiating and working on is finding a better like education system for people to get their kids to school, pick their kids up, and just have like the right, like I think the start of education is actually back at home, not actually at school.
Definitely.
And if people feel good about dropping their kids off, then they're gonna feel good about picking them up. They're gonna feel good about doing homework with their kids, because it's just this like this better system that we have. So I'm working on a couple of ideas. I'm gonna let you know in the future.
Let me know.
Maybe off camera. So you mentioned like being in a single family home and all the challenges that it come with. We talked about that earlier. And you know, I like to ask this like question, especially like from kids just from Gary or just kids from Gary. What would you say your superpowers are?
So some of my superpowers, I'm adventurous.
Okay.
I'm a big risk taker. As I talked on earlier, I dropped a scholarship to go into debt to go to TSU. And I'm also funny, so I like to joke around a lot to, you know, break that awkwardness and meeting people. And so I take pride in that, you know, my humor.
Yeah. Because life is short.
It
You gotta enjoy it.
definitely is short. So anybody that knows me, I'm always joking around, smiling, and not too many people see me, you know, pretty frustrated and mad. So I take pride in that. Yeah.
Sure. Well, man, look, thanks for like inviting me to your crib, man. I love St. Louis. It's like literally one of my second favorite cities.
I hear you.
And so like it's actually a pleasure to come back, you know what I'm saying, have this conversation with you. But do you have anything to say to the people directly, man? Anything that you want to like give like tips and tricks on like basically how to like better their lives or, you know what I'm saying, basically like just like do something amazing?
Yeah, so I'm not a preacher or anything, but I do suggest, you know, people to, you know, take a risk and go for whatever, you know, you have a desire for, and write some goals down and put it in the area that you are at the most. Like in my bathroom, when I brush my teeth and I look right, I see my goals. Like every morning I'm brushing my teeth or I'm washing my hands. So that helps me out a lot. So I'm just, you know, pumping that in my head every day. Like, okay, I need to do something to get to this goal every day, whether that's big or small. So I really appreciate you, you know, selected me to be a part of the podcast. I was definitely nervous at first to do this, but you know, the warm conversation kind of helped along the way.
Sure.
So continue to do, you know, these positive things, and feel free to reach out to me at social media. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna put all that social media. But go ahead. Shout social media.
At Really Izzy on Instagram. I'm pretty heavy on there, so feel free to reach out. I really appreciate this, man. I'm ready to see what you put together. Yep.
Sure,
appreciate it, Josh.
Yeah.